you probably take the whole one. I would and I would have
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, Martin, on 3, 2, 1.
Good morning. Welcome into the Martin on Tide 100.9 on your radio dial, the Martin Houston Show fan page at Martin Houston Live on Facebook. It is a beautiful Tuesday morning. We're live and local and ready to get things kicked off. I want to invite you into the conversation. You can join us at 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. The Taco Casa hotline is open for business. Taco Casa, quality, taste, value under the biggest cactus in town. Let us hear from you this morning. Got some great content up for you, but as always, like to get your thoughts on the conversation, and you're always welcome to join the conversation via chat, whether it's via the at Martin Houston 35 on Twitter or Martin Houston Live on Facebook and Martin Houston Live on YouTube. So glad to have you as a part
I don't have any audio from you.
Glad to have you as part of the conversation. Let's keep things going. All right. Let's see. Let's get things going. All right, guys on the airwaves, on Restream, on the Facebook, social media, stay tuned. I want to reconnect on the other side, guys. All right.
I didn't have any audio from
All
you, so
okay.
do you
have me now?
There you are.
All right. Well, let's get things going. Let's
Good morning.
Good morning. Let's try this kicking things off with the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9. It's a beautiful, beautiful Tuesday morning. Technology is a beautiful thing, but sometimes it doesn't always cooperate. But we are back and glad to be with you. And as always, want to invite you to join us on the conversation, in the conversation at 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. Taco Casa hotline is open for business. Go check them out for lunch and or dinner. Great option there. They will be there to serve you, and they've been doing it for 40 plus years, so you can count on them to be there. Speaking of being able to count on, remember that this is a day that the Lord has made, so rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Man, we got a lot to get to. Of course, we have DC Capstone Report will be joining us in the second quarter, and we'll break down his thoughts on day one of SEC Media Days. We'll talk about day two, and of course, the big day, of course, is tomorrow as the Alabama Crimson Tide, Nick Saban, John Mechie, and Fedorian Mathis will be traveling up to Hoover. And speaking of that, we got some great questions at Tide 100.9 at Tide100.9.com. You can see the questions that we, as the host of your favorite radio station, what would be our questions for Nick Saban. So we may go through and break some of those down. I still would like to hear from you today on what's your favorite question. You can call us and let us know what that would be, 205-342-9904, or post your question for Nick Saban in chat. Either way, we'll bring them to the airwaves and add it to the conversation. Greg Sankey, of course, as tradition, opens up SEC Media Days with a stern warning. Seemed to be taking kind of a hard line approach to COVID-19 vaccinations and his belief in vaccines. And so as fans, as coaches, as universities, as players, everyone was put on notice yesterday. Did he paint himself into a corner yesterday with the approach? He used the word forfeit there. So we'll talk about that and dig into that. But before we do that, I want to remind you about the NBA Finals tonight. Of course, I'll be breaking that down on tomorrow. NBA Finals is going to be maybe history making in the sense of the last 50 plus years. The Milwaukee Bucks trying to get their first championship since the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar days. That's so crazy to think about. I think his name may have even been Lou Alcindor when he won it. So it's been a while, 50 years since that happened. Phoenix Suns never won a championship. So it's been a while for both of these teams, if ever. And will the Phoenix Suns, who went almost from worst to first in 1 year, will they be able to force a game 6-7, as they are the best road team in the NBA this season and this postseason? Will Giannis, the Greek Freak, get his first title in his 8th season? We will bring that to you. I'll be watching it, but Joe, I have a great opportunity tonight. I get to go hear Coach Saban prior to him heading up to Hoover. I get to go hear him tonight speak as just a kind of a thank you for the Crimson Tide Sports marketing sponsors. So I kind of have an insight on what he's talking about when we come on the air tomorrow. So looking forward to that. If they let me get a question, Joe, in, I might even ask him my question tonight. So.
You will look forward to seeing your report for tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. To kind of, it'll kind of give an idea. Well, sometimes it's really based on what he shares. But Joe, I did not see your question of what you would ask Nick Saban on that list. We're going to break that down as we move throughout this week. But I did not see what question Joe Gaither would ask Nick Saban if he had him on point.
If I was I'm not a Title 109 host, so I didn't feel right myself in there. But if I I had the microphone, I would have asked Coach Saban if he's hopeful that one of his running backs will emerge as a lead back this year, or if he's expecting to use kind of a committee most of the year.
Good. Well, let me which one of those?
I think that if you look at Brian Robinson, you look at the way that the team is structured. He could be the guy that becomes that lead running back for the Alabama Crimson Tide, and following in the footsteps of Najee Harris. But it might be a situation when it was like Damien Harris and Mo Scarborough and Josh Jacobs, where a lot of backs got a lot of touches in the year. We'll have Roydell Williams, Jace McClellan, and Kamar Wheaton, so it'll be interesting to see if we go with a running back by committee, or if we go into if one of them steps up and emerges as a number one option.
Yeah, and of course, sometimes these watch lists didn't. There's no reason to get.
Well, I don't know if you can hear me, but your microphone sounds so far away that I can't even hear you. So I'm going to reconnect with you as I talk about the running backs here. And get his opinion on whether we will use a running back by committee. And we want to encourage you to give us a call on the Taco Casa hotline and let us know what your question for Nick Saban would be at 205-342-9904. Martin?
Yes, I'm back. Hopefully that helps. Um, I think that there's a great likelihood that Brian Robinson could emerge as a leader, but I also think that he has so much talent. I don't know that we will have as much of a Najee Harris in Nick Saban's tenure. We've been more likely to have running back by at least two in the committee, if not three, more than we've had one dominant back, like we saw with Derrick Henry and Najee Harris. So I would tend to go that we're probably going to have a running back by committee. And Najee Harris, not Najee Harris, but Brian Robinson and John Mechie, of course, both getting a little love yesterday as they were added to the watch list for Maxwell. So the Maxwell Award is given to the College Football Player of the Year. It's a watch list, which doesn't mean a whole lot, except for the fact that, hey, you're considered amongst potentially the top 80 players in the country, which is not anything to, turn your nose up at. So congratulations to those two guys on getting that opportunity. We will continue the conversation on the other side as we bring in DC Capstone Report. Wondering what he would ask Nick Saban. We'll talk about Sankey and what he said yesterday. Did he put himself in a corner with talk of get enough players, get 80%, or forfeit? Could you still have a forfeit if you do everything right? And if so, could they change the outlook of the SEC because of the forfeit potential? We'll talk about that and a whole lot more right here on the Martin Houston Show.
Tide 100 traffic.
Good morning. Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9 on your radio dial, the Martin Houston Show fan page on Facebook. Let's go ahead and get ready to bring in our weekly guest, Mr. DC Capstone Report. Good morning, DC. How you doing, sir?
Oh, doing great, Martin. How are you this morning?
Doing well, fighting through some technical issues, but you know what? We're still live and local and on the air, so let's provide good content when all is said and done. So let's get Joe, I can hear you now, FY. So DC, Nick Saban, SEC.
Sorry, Martin, I'm having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if you're having technical difficulties, but if you're speaking to me, I really can't hear anything. It's very faint.
Good morning, DC. How you doing today? Welcome to the Martin Houston Show.
Real well. I'm having a hard time hearing Martin.
Yeah, I am as well. We're having some issues with our I have 4 computers, and I think only one of them works. So I'm trying to figure out which one of them is doing the right thing over here, DC. Why don't you let us know what you thought about yesterday or at Orgeron, whichever one you prefer.
I think yesterday was. The way it's headed. I thought that was interesting. I thought also his talk and stance about vaccinations was interesting. Talking about at least the 16 out of the 14 have been reached the 80% threshold. So I thought that was a key talking point of the speech. And of course, Edge Orgeron, just I think he's probably one of the coaches that's a little still on the hot seat this year, and I think it showed the way he came out talking, and maybe a dial back his bravado just a tad. And I think Dan Mullen Ratch, of course, is coming in hot on a lot of the issues, especially one of those hot button issues was he spoke about maybe doing away with the every year opponents from the West and the East. So you can move around and have better games. I think broke that subject, broke that issue. So I think Shane Beamer really did a good job of speaking. You tell he has a good opportunity to really do some things there in South Carolina. I'm not sure what people in South Carolina expected from him this year, but it looks like he's really got a good game plan going forward, realistic with what he has to do there at the team.
All right, DC, we made some adjustments here. Hopefully you can hear me a little better now. I agree with you on that sentiment regarding what happened with the different guys. Coach O, and not trying to be funny, Coach O's response kind of reminded me of Deontay Wilder's response at the press conference. Not so, as you say, not so much bravado, but hey, recognizing that maybe winning the championship and defending it is a little tougher than you expect, because you now become the hunted versus the hunter. So that was very interesting to see. Let's circle back if we could on the conversation with Sankey and what he had to say in regards to the vaccine and all that. very interesting approach. DC, he mentioned forfeits. He mentioned kind of hard to believe. What was it? 43%, currently at 80% vaccinated. Didn't mention who, but that's only 6 of the programs. Did he paint himself in a corner, though, with pretty much saying there's not going to be any moving around, because it seems that with possibility that this variant still could strike our team, and even though they've been vaccinated.
Well, I think you even mentioned the North Carolina State baseball team. I don't think that's a really good taste in people's mouths. I think he's using that maybe as a not so much the care, but maybe as a whip to the team to get vaccinated and get themselves in a position to not have to forfeit games. I think he was taking a hard line approach. Yes, he's paying himself in the corner, but I think by doing this at media day, I think he's putting the expectations of the commissioner of the SEC out there to all the teams and tell them this is the way it's going to be. We're not going to move a lot of games around this year to save you able to play. And if you want to play and you want to play at the game, it's going to be at full strength. Get your people vaccinated, get up to the 80% threshold because he sounds like he is desperate.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, you know, with the way things are reported around this virus, that still is no guarantee. And, you know, I guess you potentially could be looking at a situation where, say, Alabama and Texas A&M and one of those teams ends up with having a forfeit, and they did to 80%. You know, because the part that we don't know, DC, is, and you may, I've not heard, how are they doing the contact tracing amongst vaccinated versus non-vaccinated? You see what I'm saying? Like, if someone gets it, and contact tracing was the problem that got most people last year not necessarily having the COVID, because not a lot of athletes got COVID last year, but a lot of athletes got caught up in the contact tracing. So that's still out there. I guess we'll have to wait and see whether or not and how they go about ultimately doing contact tracing. But say those two teams don't get to play and Alabama had to forfeit, but they go undefeated. And Texas A&M loses one game, but they won the head-to-head. They would get the head-to-head forfeit. Woo!
I think what he's saying though, Martin, is I don't think going on the premise of vaccination makes you 100% not vulnerable to the virus. I think what got most of the teams that you get on right now last year was the contact tracing. So those rules are going to be different for vaccinated teams than they are to unvaccinated. So you could have a lot of people out contact tracing if one person gets on your team and the majority of your team is not vaccinated. But you could have a lot of people still eligible for the game if one person gets on your team and 80% of your team is vaccinated. I think that's what he's getting at. I don't think he's saying that you're going to be immune to the virus if you not have anybody get it if you're 80% vaccinated. I think he's going to say your contact tracing is going to be different, so you're going to have more people eligible for the game. I think that's why he was.
Right, and that's what I'm saying is, will they change that contact?
Not be out.
Yeah, and that's the key, is if they're going to change the contact tracing requirements. I don't know if he spoke to that directly or not, but we'll watch that, keep our eyes on it. But he definitely shot across the bow and said, "Hey guys, get vaccinated or risk having the forfeit a game." And he kind of said the bookends for a decision has been made, meaning get vaccinated or, forfeit if it comes to that. So let's go ahead and get the break here. Before we do that, got a question for you and I, DC, from Curtis Moore II. Going forward with the forfeit rule, do you think Sankey is going to change the required amount of players that can play the game by decreasing the number? May be tough, but players may have to play both sides of the ball, defense and offense. We have that question, got a couple others, but I want you to have that one, and we'll address that when we come back out on the other side. Also, DC, be thinking about what you would ask Nick Saban if you were sitting at media days. Come back on the other side. We'll continue the conversation on Tide 100.9.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the towns of Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks on this Tuesday morning, and we do expect more rain today, so if you encounter some, just remember, slow down, turn your lights and wipers on, and be careful. Johnson Nissan has an awesome selection of brand new cars, trucks, SUVs, and they really want your trade. Go see them. I'm Captain Ray.
Hello, this is Martin Houston with the Martin Houston Show, and I want to tell you about one of our great sponsors, Overflow Express Wash. Their mission is to provide great customer service with a showroom clean car and an exceptional customer service experience. They have the basic car wash that starts at $7, but you need to check out the premium wash packages, which start as low as $12 and go up to $20. They also have a membership wash club that you can get for starting at $23.99, going up to $39.99. In other words, just double the regular premium package, drop a penny, and you can be one of the great members of Overflow Express Wash. My family and I keep our cars looking good inside and out by using Overflow Express Wash. They're located on Skyland Boulevard right next door to Alabama 1, or you can find them online at overflowexpresswash.com. Andy Phillips and his team look forward to making you a part of their team. Nick Saban calls it the process. John Maxwell said that everything rises and falls on it. And Coach Wooden said it's what you learn after you think you know it all that makes the difference. What am I talking about? Leadership and personal development. Is your organization, your school, your church, your family, are they receiving the proper level of leadership development and personal development? If not, the Empowerment Center for Leadership and Mentoring can help you with that. We have our pep talks, which is a 1-hour lunch and learn, which we can customize to meet your needs, or we have some topics that we present that we know can help your organization. And if you're looking for one-on-one mentoring and coaching, we can also assist you with that. Visit peptalks35.com. That's peptalks35.com, or send an email to martin@martinhouston.org. That's the Empowerment Center for Leadership and Mentoring.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show, the sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team, on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the...
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9. Glad to be with you on this beautiful Tuesday morning. We got DC Capstone Report. As we were going to break there, I teased a question for DC, and that question coming from Curtis Moore II regarding the whether or not Sankey will change the number of players, decreasing the number of players required. He seemed to have addressed that in his response, DC. It appears that he's not going to waive or change the number of players required any lower than what they had last year. Your thoughts on that?
I think that's exactly correct. I think he set the table for his expectations. And his expectations to play with that framework. You get vaccinated and you forfeit if you don't have enough players to play. I don't think he's likely to lose to that either. But again, I think you got to remember his vaccinations to the contact tracing is not for being immune from the vaccine. I think he's trying to say about get vaccinated. Is that contact tracing rules will not affect you as much if you're not vaccinated.
Yeah, and that's the key. I think he's setting up two different levels, which in a lot of ways is going to have people, more teams get vaccinated. But once again, that will be a team by team decision. Let's switch over to questions for DC. Here's a question. You're gonna be Saban for a second, DC, and here's a question from CJ Watson. Who, in your opinion, is emerging as a leader in the locker room? With the large number of upperclassmen and leaders in the program exiting/graduating, what players do you see stepping up in terms of leadership?
Hard to say right at this point because I don't have the information. Most of us don't have it early on in the season, but I would tell you just because John Mechie and Darius Mathis were chosen to take media days, that I would expect that they have emerged the voice in the locker room. I also would expect Evan Neal, Chris Owen, people like that to step up and emerge as voice as well. But yet remains to be seen. I think two things that one thing I always want to ask about is team chemistry and what's the identity of your team. And so I think that this year's team has got to make that identity and earn that during your summer program and your beginning workout, your camp, and that sort of thing. I think you'll eventually see that emerge as your leaders are.
Yeah, if you go back to spring, one of the natural positions that always gets that first nod as a leader is always the quarterback. And they have to be a leader whether they're deemed the leader or not. They still have to have leadership skills and qualities. I would ask you, DC, do you think that the Mechie decision is as much Nick Saban knowing how important it's going to be to get and have a bona fide leader in that wide receiver room as much as it is the fact that Mechie may already be that leader, because they have so much talent in that room, but they are young, extremely young. When you get a transfer from Ohio State, who ends up now coming in and who doesn't have a whole lot of experience himself, and he quickly becomes the first or second most experienced player in that meeting room, you're really young. So I really, when I saw Mechie's name, I thought that was as much about, Saban does this at times. He calls guys out. He puts guys up as the leaders, and because he sees it in those players, not that, he's trying to force them and he wants them to just step into that role.
Yeah, I think it's possibly that if John Mechie in a crowded room last year, as far as on offense, with a lot of good, with the three-headed monster with Najee Harris, Devontae Smith, and Mac Jones, maybe at times could have may have appeared to be left out at some point. But I think this was a way for Saban to give him a nod, saying, "Hey, this is your year. This is your team. Step up and be a leader in it." And it may also be stepping in, express some of the qualities that he knows he has already in his team. We give him that little nudge. Sometimes he needs a little nudge to get him out. They say Brian Robinson is a leader by what he does, but not as big of a talker. And I think this year you might see him step up into a bigger role as well.
Yeah, and that's what I would say. A couple guys that I'm really looking forward to on the offensive side of the ball to step up and take that leadership role is Brian Robinson. And, of course, I think Chris Owens has shown a little bit of that as well with some of the stuff he's done in the past as well, with those guys coming back for an extra year of eligibility. You would think that they would be kind of natural leaders, and it'll be interesting to see if one of those two potentially ends up being, the permanent team captain, which is of course a leader player type of recognition for the leadership. But overall, I'm looking forward to those two guys. DC, now you said that if that was your question, I mean, if you had Nick Saban's ear, you'd ask him about team chemistry. What do you see as one of the biggest challenges to this team in terms of chemistry and a potential pitfall?
Well, I think it's what we just didn't talk about. Martin. What did we not talk about right then that we've been able to talk about for the last several years? When was the last time we weren't able to talk about? And we didn't mention Bryce Young's name. We didn't mention the quarterback's name as the leader. So I think that's a potential pitfall. We've always go back in times here where we talked about, since Jalen Hurts was a freshman, we've had Jalen Hurts, Tagovailoa, or Mac Jones for a number of years. We knew was going to be a leader, going to step up and be a leader. This year, we talked about that conversation about leadership or vocal in locker room, a quarterback that's going to lead the team. I'm saying that Bryce Jones can't emerge to be that boy, but right now we don't know that. So my question is, what is going to be the identity of this team? How is the team going to gel? Who are they going to follow? And can they all get behind Bryce Young and these guys? I think he is, but it's interesting that in that conversation you and I just had, we just mentioned his name.
Yeah, that's why I said normally that's kind of who you kind of throw up there as the leadership guy, just naturally because of quarterback position. And at Alabama, literally, other than I think when we before this time, the only other time there was really a leadership vacuum at the quarterback position may have been when Jalen started, right? I mean, you had Blake Barnett and a couple other guys that were there, but before that, you had McElroy and all those guys. So and McCarron and Sims and Coker. So Nick Saban's been really fortunate in terms of ready for a quarterback. Now, there's no question about Bryce Young's talent, but there is still the question of leadership. And to me, DC, he may have the hardest job of any quarterback in the Nick Saban era. Just think about what he's being asked to do. He's coming in. All the other guys have either had a lot of experience, been in the program for a while, had gotten some significant, even if it was only a couple games like Mac Jones, they had got the opportunity to play in big-time moments by the time they became the starter. Tua Tagovailoa, whether he started a game or not, had still won a national championship. A game-winning play to win a national championship. So they'd all had that experience, DC. The other thing is we were not known as an offensive juggernaut when those guys took over. We were trending in that direction. We're now, one of the top offensive, teams in the country. We have a new offensive coordinator. He has, one guy, Evan Neal. Two guys, Evan Neal and Ekior. And not Ekior may be the only guy in the same spot. Well, no, we have Billingsley. So he has a whole new team around him. And, all of that pressure falls on him. So is it the perfect timing for a Bryce Young type of moment to come in when it appears that defense could be the identity of this team?
Yeah, you're talking about a guy who's going to come in and never had any significant playing time, and he's surrounded by everybody that did not have
right.
Think about this: you got a quarterback that's going to start on a team where that lost its most dynamic playmaker in the of all time at Alabama, probably winning all the awards. Devontae Smith lost your top leading rusher. He's not coming back. So you've got a lot of question marks in a lot of different places on where that offensive production is going to come from. You've never had a significant start in playing. You didn't get to play a lot last year because of the COVID short all SEC game season. And your supporting cast, they haven't done very much production as well. So I think it's just it's a tough position, probably the toughest starting quarterback position this year for Bryce Young. Now, he has all the talent in the world, and I'm sure he can rise to the occasion. But you add on top of that a brand new offense coordinator, then you're asking this young man to do a whole lot. Think about it. We need to really talk about what he's got to face.
Yeah, and so that flips the question, DC. What do you see as the identity for this 2021 football team?
Well, in my opinion, I think based on all that, right now, I would guess this is going to be a defensive laden football team. If we're going to get back to some old school Alabama defense, that even in this era where offenses are just going out the roof as far as point production and yardage production, if we're going to see an Alabama team that's really, really skilled on defense, and hold some opponents to some stops and getting off the field on third down. So I really believe that this team is going to be a defensive team that's going to lead the way for Alabama and give opportunity for the offense to catch up and come along. We have some big games early, with Miami and Florida. Some games that are going to be tough games if our defense doesn't really, really impose its will on the other team. And I think that's where we are. I think our team knows it. Our coaches know it, and I think we're going to be identity is going to be a lot better on defense this year than we have been in the last couple.
All right, DC. With that setup, I want you to think about the question that Ryan Fowler, host of the game, and my co-host with Alabama Tradition, that airs from 6 to 7 on Tuesday nights, had the following question to kind of piggyback off of the conversation we were just having. Coach, this is what he would ask Coach Saban. Coach, when you look at the landscape of college football, especially on the offensive side of the ball, how do you evaluate your defense? What do you consider a successful defense? You and I both kind of leaning, at this point, I'm leaning that we're going to be more defensive identity, but I'm not completely on that side of the coin yet. But with that said, Bama fans seem to be really hungry based on questions I get and comments I hear for Alabama's defense to be great again. And we want to talk about that and how would you judge it and how do you evaluate it? That conversation coming up next. We're speaking with DC Capstone Report. You can join the conversation at 205-342-9904. Coming back on the other side, we'll wrap up today's edition of the Martin Houston Show.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Welcome to Jones of Nissan Traffic Center. No active wrecks on this Tuesday morning. Now we do expect rain today, so if you encounter some, just remember, slow down, turn your lights and wipers on, and be careful. Jones of Nissan has an awesome selection of brand new cars, trucks, SUVs, and they really want your trade. Go see them. I'm Captain Ray.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread. Good morning. Tuscaloosa, Greene, Marengo, and Walker counties are now among 47 counties in Alabama considered at very high risk for COVID-19, according to the Alabama Department of Public Health. For the poll by ABC News shows 90% of the unvaccinated are more afraid of the vaccine than the pandemic. Only 37% of Alabamians are vaccinated. That's the lowest percentage of any state in the nation. Keep up with local news on TuscaloosaThread.com. It's free. I'm Don Ricky.
Hello, this is Martin Houston with the Martin Houston Show. And I want to tell you about Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing. If you're looking for a way to add value to your home, make your flower beds pop, make your landscaping stand out from your neighbors, then Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing can help you do just that. They have numerous styles, but they feature the Moroccan Stone Curb series, which includes 4 great styles and unlimited color choices. That's Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing. They are the one that can help you stand out from your neighbors. Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing, 205-331-6823. You may also find yourself with the need for a custom-sized stone or custom-shaped stone.
then Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing can help with that as well. Paul Fuller and his team
Waiting on your call right now for that free quote. And if you're telling them Martin Houston with the Martin Houston Show told you to stop by, you'll get a big discount. So call Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing at 205-331-6823. Visit them online at Tuscaloosa Custom Curbing, LLC.
Brought to you by Indeed. Indeed's Instant Match searches through millions of resumes in Indeed's database to deliver candidates who fit your job description instantly. More at Indeed.com/credit.
How do you keep a workout fresh every day?
Clap it up, Peloton. Let's do this.
By getting everything from endurance rides to restorative.
All right at home. The Peloton bike. Nothing like working out from home. Visit onepeloton.com to learn more.
At Target, we know there are a lot of firsts when it comes to going back to school. First look, first bite, first day photos. So with lower prices and great deals like $8 jeans, $4 tees, and 50-cent supplies, make Target your first stop back to school. Power your passion during Dell's Black Friday in July event with up to $400 off the latest Dell XPS computers and Alienware systems, all powered by Intel Core processors. Save on top brand electronics plus free shipping on everything. Just call 800-BUY-DELL. That's 800-BUY-DELL.
Do you remember a time that you would go to the drive-in movie theater and have a blast as a kid? You can pass on the experience to a new generation every Saturday at dusk at Government Plaza. We are showing a movie in the park on a 30-plus foot screen. Our next movie is Hocus Pocus. We have food vendors on site. This is your chance to bring out the kids and enjoy a family-friendly event, and it's free thanks to our sponsors, Pepsi, Bryant Bank, Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports, Burnham Pond Exterminators, First Kids Urgent Care, the City of Tuscaloosa, and Town Square Media. Join us Saturday, July 24th at Government Plaza.
Sound of Bama Sports. Your show, your team, the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show. It's a Tuesday morning. We're glad to be with you on this beautiful day. And the the question that we were asking was, how would Nick Saban, if we're Ryan Fowler of the Game and Alabama Tradition, asking Nick Saban, how do you evaluate your defense, as well as how do you judge a successful defense? We have DC Capstone Report joining us. DC, tell our listeners where they can find you and when you guys will start back rolling. I know we're getting close because the SEC Media Days is upon us.
Yeah, DCCapstoneReport.com, DC Capstone Report Facebook page. You can follow me on Twitter at DavidCott50. Yeah, throughout that time when we get started back, when Alabama kicks off its first practice, getting ready for the fall, we're always there the week after to start evaluations. We stay with you every week through the national championship game. So coming up soon in August, we'll be back on the podcast, weekly podcast. We usually have it up by Tuesday and live sometimes on Monday. We live on sometime a game. Sometimes Martin and I do things back and forth for game day. So looking forward to getting back to it and having a cast up beginning in August.
That is awesome. Well, Curtis Lewis responded. Wouldn't expect anything. We start talking about defense. He's going to send us his love for Pete Golding. Just kidding. Curtis Lewis said Alabama will not be different than it's been in the last few years. This defensive identity will not fly during this day and age because it isn't as relative. Curtis and Pete Golding, we trust. Laugh out loud. Let's just get off the field on third down and do better in the red zone. All right. So what would be the statistics that used to be that everybody used to tout when for a great defense was what, DC?
Points per game.
Scoring points per game. All right. And so do you think that as a whole, fans still haven't moved on from that? That we're still looking for points per game to judge whether a defense is elite or not?
I would agree with that. I think the average fan still looks at points per game. But I think that in this day and time, Ryan Fowler touched on it by asking that question. I think he already knows the underlying answer is in this day and time with a high-powered offense, that statistic has become less and less important to some extent.
Yeah, without a doubt, it really has become almost irrelevant as far as the key because Alabama pretty much held everybody with the exception of a couple teams, in check last year. The problem is when they ran against equally as powerful offenses, Ole Miss and Florida, we were in a shootout. And the question becomes, how do you evaluate? And I think Curtis Lewis hit a couple of those things. The first thing you need to begin to evaluate, to me, is how well you do on third down. Are you getting off the field? If I was a coach, that would probably be my number one statistic over scoring, looking at scoring points. Because if you're getting off the field on third down, the points are going to take care of themselves.
I agree 100%, Martin. My biggest defensive statistic has always been, number one, turnovers. I think that wins or loses the game for you. And number two, getting off the field on third down.
Yeah.
If we can do that and play well, improve our getting off the field on third down, improve our turnover ratio this year, then I would think that our defense is much improved.
Yeah, and I agree with that. In the sense of turnovers is always mission critical, and one of the most telling signs. As long as your offense is not a turnover machine, you could have an offense that turns the ball over as much as you turn the other team over, and still play well on third down, and you would get out of a lot of bad situations. So they kind of go hand in hand. But I would probably start off in this day and age because there's so many offensive possessions now compared to what it used to be. When I was coming along, man, you fool around and turn the ball over, DC, that game would get away from you because the other team would milk the clock. Now, you think about sometimes you turn the ball over against an Auburn, and literally if you get off the field on third down, you may lose a minute worth of time. Back when I was playing, man, you may lose 5-6 minutes of clock in that era. So definitely would evaluate it in that sense. From a point standpoint, DC, what would be your goal going into a season to judge success from that? Because you still need to measure it because if you get into a defensive battle or a team and whether or not you can score and not score points, what would you say would be an average you want to shoot for?
I'm about to shoot something less than 2 touchdowns, like 12, 13 points.
Wow. Man, you're...
I think that's elite defense. I think that's what you consider to be an elite defense.
I would say without a doubt.
I think 19 to 21 points is probably what most defense.
Yeah. I would say somewhere between 14 to 17 is elite now, considering, especially if you take the SEC, like last year, you take the SEC only games, I would say 14 to 17 is probably elite in my opinion. So you're even more of a juggernaut on the defensive side than I am. I'm still not sure whether or not we're going to have identity. We'll talk more about what's this team identity. Will it be defense? Will it be offense? DC, I'll give you a chance to give your closing thoughts.
Well, I just think that if they get remain to be seen, but we've added defense, I think it's going to make a difference this year. And I really see us being a lot better on defense, despite what some might say.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to be a lot better. And question I have for you next week maybe is, are we looking potentially at the best two inside linebacker combo that Alabama's had under Nick Saban with Toa if he starts, as well as Christian Harris? We'll save that for next week. Thanks, DC. We appreciate you. Tell them one more time real quick where they can find you.
Find me at DCCapstonReport.com, DCCapstonReport Facebook page, and David Cott, Twitter, David Cott 5. Thank you, Martin. Have a great day. day, roll tide.
Roll Tide. Thanks, DC, at David Cott 50, DC Capstone Report. And I want to thank all of our listeners and on the radio, on Facebook, on social media. Apologize for technical difficulties. But I want to thank Joe for hanging in there with me, and we're getting it out there, and we'll continue to work to get better on this side. Thank you for being a part of the program and a part of the Martin Houston Show. And remember this, trust in the Lord always. Lean not your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. Roll Tide.
Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no wrecks.